up in Lebanon. I was 9 years old when I came here, and I was there during the Civil War. So that's actually why we left and came to Australia. With my parents and my sister, and we had a small family here already, and that was the late 80s, and have mostly lived in Melbourne since then until this year when I moved to Sydney. Well, I guess my life experiences and growing up in Australia has exposed me to good things, many opportunities and lots of privileges that I probably wouldn't have had if I'd stayed in Lebanon. And it also exposed me to some difficulties as well, and some challenges around migration and settling into a new country, and unfortunately some of the racism that exists here. And I think that impacted me in career-wise to want to work with young people when I was younger, and to look at identity formation and belonging. And I ended up studying psychology and social work, and I spent a lot of time working with migrant and refugee communities around settlement in Australia and their journey. I also worked in a clinical setting. I was also doing a lot of counselling around substance abuse and problematic gambling, and eventually started working in the family violence sector. And all of those experiences combined led me to launching the Institute of Nonviolence. So I launched the business in November 2020. I guess I was already working with a number of clients before I launched the business, having worked as a diversity and inclusion consultant since 2004, and having worked in family violence specialist sector since 2016 as a consultant and as an employee. So the Institute of Nonviolence just gave me another avenue and a more direct avenue to express what I really believe in. We box people into gender roles, and that, you know, we've created the idea of man and woman and what those identities mean, and we encourage boys and men to be tough and strong and to make decisions, and we encourage women to be nurturing and caring and loving. And the truth is that anyone of any gender and any sexual orientation and any gender identity can embody those traits, and some people display those traits more than others. We offer consulting services to not-for-profits, government and the private sector if there's interest, predominantly around addressing family violence, responding to influencing public policy, and also clinical practice in the space. The Institute of Nonviolence combines my areas of skill, the specializations that I've worked with over the years, which fundamentally center around inclusive practice, putting an intersectional lens on things, and looking at family violence, gendered violence, and other forms of social violence, including racism. And so the Institute combines these things together to look at how we can live in non-violent ways and be in a world that is predominantly non-violent, because I believe that we are inherently non-violent in our essence as humans. I was in Melbourne in lockdown in 2020, and I was already thinking about establishing the Institute of Nonviolence and talking to different people. I was connected with a business coach earlier on, and some experts in the field, and having the conversations and connecting with my network. And a part of that was talking to people at Settlement Services International, and I was told about the Ignite program around August last year. Luckily, I was eligible for the program as a migrant woman who's an entrepreneur, and in all honesty, it was just the best thing that happened. And I know for a fact that the way the business was launched and what's happened since the launch would not have happened if I was doing it on my own. Two things that were the most useful with the Ignite program. One was access to affordable professionals. They had access to just about every type of professional you need when you're setting up a business. And the other one was actually the level of expertise and professionalism and knowledge that the facilitator brings in knowing how to have the conversations with those people, because I know my content and I know what I want my business to be, but I don't know how to have conversations with marketers and web developers and accountants and lawyers. Even I didn't always know the right questions to ask or what I even needed to get out of a meeting. And that's something that my facilitator was there with me the whole way and guided the process and just the level of attention to detail and the follow-up that was provided afterwards. It was like having an operations manager on board that was just carrying the responsibility and the complexity of starting a new business with me, which is quite overwhelming. And particularly when I was already working with clients, I was already working on projects and had so much to do that I would not have been able to do it if I didn't have that level of support and guidance.